All right. For the sake of time, we, of course, introduce Mr. Philippe Lazzarini, the Commissioner General of UNRWA. He'll make some brief remarks and take a few questions. Okay, the floor is yours, sir. In 10 minutes, okay. Your mic.
My mic. Okay, so yes, okay. Good evening. So listen, I was in New York just for one day, and I came for the General Assembly session this afternoon on UNRWA, which basically was a follow-up of the letter I addressed to the President, and after having addressed this letter, a group of member states have requested a discussion to take place about UNRWA. Basically, I have asked a few things to the member states right from the onset of my remark, that there is a need to urgently facilitate a political solution that will bring peace to Palestinian and Israeli, and in the meantime, to resolve the financial crisis confronting UNRWA so that we can continue to deliver on our mandate, but also on our life-saving operation in Gaza. I just want to remind, well, you all know, so no need to remind, on the 26th of January, we had the ICJ ruling, which is legally binding regarding the Palestinian in Gaza. And basically it requested at the time to Israel and others to take all the necessary measures to prevent irreparable damages. And obviously this included an urgent increase of the provision of humanitarian assistance. Since that time, what have we seen? In reality, assistance has halved, has not increased. If I compare the flow of aid going into Gaza between January and February, it has decreased by 50%. But also, we had growing, alarming, I would say, humanitarian indicator. I usually describe this humanitarian situation as a kind of crisis of all the possible superlative. If we look at the number of people who have been killed or reportedly killed, 30,000 in only 150 days, it's staggering. It's certainly the conflicts where we have seen the highest number of children, the highest number of journalists, the highest number of health workers, the highest number of UN workers who have been killed in such a short period. If you look at the overall population, it's basically 5% of the population which has been either reportedly killed, injured, or missing. And again, this in less than 5 months. You keep hearing from our colleagues from WHO that doctors are amputating the limbs of injured children without anesthetic. But the worst into this is a region which has never, ever encountered hunger, has widespread hunger, and we even have unfolding under our eyes looming famine, especially in the north, but there are also other pockets of starvation. You also, this terrible, horrible tragedy of last week, where you have hundreds of people, hungry people, queuing desperately to get food assistance, and while waiting for this, more than 100 of them have been killed, and hundreds have been also reportedly injured. And you have also in the Gaza Strip today, according to UNICEF, 70,000 children who have been orphaned and completely abandoned in one of the most dangerous places on earth. It is also in this context that we talk about a possible military offensive. We talk about a ceasefire. I hope we will have a ceasefire that would bring respite to the population, would also allow the release of the hostages. But on the other hand, we keep hearing about a possible offensive in the middle of a sea of displaced people in Rafah. So basically, while the description is already horrendous when it comes to the situation in Gaza, would such an offensive took place, we can only fear that the worst is still yet to come, while we have felt that we have already reached the worst. Today, I also updated the General Assembly about the allegation against the 12 UNRWA staff who allegedly have participated to the horrendous attack of October 7. I also stress that as far as I'm concerned, at the time I have received the allegation, I have not received any substantiated or information or evidence, but because of the gravity of the allegation, I have taken swift action. The first one being to terminate the staff, immediately followed by an OIOS investigation. And in addition, you know that the Secretary General has also commissioned a review of the risk management of the agency to look at basically how do we prevent, raise awareness about neutrality breaches within the organization. And once a violation is brought to our attention, how is the agency, in fact, dealing with this? This is the review undertaken by, under the leadership of Catherine Colonna, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of France, with the support of the Free Scandinavian Institute. The first recommendation and heads will be shared with the agency as from March 20, and the final report is expected as from April 20. But you also know that at the time the allegations were known, 16 countries have decided to temporarily pause the contribution to the agency for a total of about $400 million. I have also to stress here that not everybody has paused. We still have a number of countries in Europe who have decided to maintain, even increase their contribution to the agency. And you have seen that a few days ago, I also welcome the European Commission decision to release its contribution of $50 million. I have also informed the General Assembly today that the agency is facing, fierce campaign which aim to undermine its credibility. But I have also to say, as far as I'm concerned, with the aim to end its operation. There have been quite a number of allegations, misinformation, disinformation, or at least unsubstantiated statement, which are primarily shared through social media or through the media, but not necessarily shared with the UN. Now, there have been also aspects I wanted to draw the attention about UNRWA with a member of the General Assembly, that in fact we are in a situation where there is also a political decision to try to eliminate the presence of UNRWA. You have heard the Israeli representatives this morning at the General Assembly. He repeated what the Prime Minister has already said, that there will be absolutely no role for UNRWA the day after in Gaza. We have also seen over the last few weeks a number of different attempts, such as attempt to evict UNRWA from its headquarters in East Jerusalem, but also from a nearby vocational training center. We have seen that there are attempts at the legislative level, at the Knesset, to seek to prohibit any activity of UNRWA East Jerusalem. When it comes to our staff in the West Bank, our staff for the time being is prevented since October 7 to reach the headquarters, and there have been additional measures undertaken with the aim to dismantle the agency. I have also seen over the last few weeks that there have been that the calls to dismantle the agency have gained some traction, and I explained, in fact, to the General Assembly was it at stake behind this call. In the short term, and the most obvious one is our ability to respond to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. For the time being, UNRWA remains the main operational platform, supporting all the other agencies to operate, and that would UNRWA further be undermined right now, it would also not only have an impact on the ability to comply with the ICG order, but also to comply with the Security Council call for increased humanitarian assistance in the Gaza Strip. But the second aspect I wanted to draw the attention to the member of the GA is that, if let's imagine that tomorrow we have a ceasefire, the ceasefire, and we build on the ceasefire, it will take some time until there is the necessary confidence of the international community to largely, broadly invest in the Gaza Strip. I think that will be the case the day there is a time-bound, genuine political package on the table which garners the support of all the parties. Until such a day, it's difficult to imagine that billions of dollars will go into the Gaza Strip. So there will be a long day in between. And here I reminded the unicity of what UNRWA is all about. UNRWA is primarily a human development organization. It's an agency primarily providing government-like services, and the handing over of its services is expected to be done with an emerging administration or with a state. There is absolutely no UN agency or INGOs which is providing direct education to 500,000 girls and boys in the Gaza Strip, for example. And we also know that if we have an emerging authority in the Strip, whatever authority will be, they certainly will not have the ability to provide such large scope, I would say, critical services. But we should also not forget that in the Gaza Strip, the population is also deeply traumatized, among them the children, and the more we will wait to bring them into an education environment, the more we are also sowing the seeds for future hatred or future resentment or revenge. So I was also drawing the attention about the risk by just dismantling UNRWA today to, at the same time, sacrifice an entire generation of children. But last but not least, I also drew the attention about the political meaning of getting rid of UNRWA, which is a real justification certainly today. The attack against UNRWA seek in reality to eliminate its role in protecting the right of the Palestinian refugees and possibly as an agency acting as a witness to the plight. We have seen that after having been quoted so many times to submission and to rulings, the attack against the agency have also significantly increased. Again, and we keep saying, if October 7 would not have taken place this year, we would be talking about the 75th year of UNRWA, of a lasting temporary organization, which is nothing else than the collective failure of the international community of not having promoted a durable, lasting, and fair political solution. And my intent at that time was to open a discussion about but what if there will never ever be a political solution. Now, we are in a different situation where in the region there have been seismic transformation taking place, which has basically also triggered again an awareness about the importance of promoting political solution. And again, after 75 years of temporary, I would say, a lasting temporary existence, if really we are genuine with the promotion of a political solution, UNRWA remain an instrument at the disposal of the international community to succeed in this trajectory, to make sure that the transition leading to this solution be successful, and that would be the day the agency would be phasing out. So just to end, I have placed 3 requests to the GA today. The first, I repeat a little bit what I said at the beginning, but to facilitate the long overdue political process that can bring lasting peace to Palestinian and Israeli. And that's the context in which we should chart the transition of the agency. Meanwhile, and because of the precarity of the financial situation, calling to the member of the General Assembly to match their expectation with the mandate being provided to the agency with resources, basically, but also the third request to ensure that any alternative to UNRWA for providing services to Palestinian refugees, and this is also a discussion I initiated 2 years ago through the partnership, which backlashed at that time with the ecosystem and the host country, but that, and I think we certainly have to reopen this discussion, but the partnership needs to be undertaken in a way that it does not undermine the right of the Palestinian refugees, but also the right of the Palestinian for self-determination. So that were my messages today to the GA, 3-pronged, the short-term impact on the humanitarian response, the medium-term on the transition, but also the longer-term one being the political one. So I think I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so
sorry,
much.
It was a little bit long, but...
Thank you so much. Okay, let's start with Edith Lederer from AP, and please limit it to 1 question for the sake of time. Thank you.
I have a plane to take this.
Do you need a piece of paper? Oh,
No, a plane, sorry. That's my Frenchy accent, sorry.
Mr. Lazzarini, thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. 2 quick questions. Can you confirm that an UNRWA investigation accuses Israel of abusing hundreds of the Palestinians in Gaza that it detained or arrested after October 7th? And the abuses include sexual abuse. And also, Israel said today that UNRWA's 13,000 staff include 450 members, active members of Hamas and Islamic Jihad. Have they informed you? Have you gotten any information about this? And what's your reaction? Thank you.
Thank you. You want me to answer immediately?
Please go ahead.
Yes, okay. Listen, I will start with the second question. It's not the first time, and I think today the representative of Israel was also talking about more people, or 1,200 people. These are statements usually being made through social media, through the media, but we as UNRWA, or I as Commissioner General, have never been informed or seized. As you know, we are providing on a yearly basis the entire list of our staff in Gaza and the West Bank and East Jerusalem to both the Israeli authority and to the Palestinian authorities. I have never ever received the slightest concern about the staff that we are employing. The only allegation that have been communicated to me has been on January 18 about the 12 alleged staff. This is an information which has been shared with me on an oral basis, but I felt that this was horrific enough and serious enough to take the action that we have taken. All the other allegations have not been communicated to me, but if this allegation being substantiated, we keep saying that they should cooperate with the UN and provide this to any team looking into this. On the second one, I wouldn't say it's an, you call it investigation of UNRWA? Or, listen, there is a report which has not been made public of hundreds of detainees who have been released, and basically whenever they have been released through Kerem Shalom. There is a kind of circuit where people, when they are arrested in Gaza, are going through, but they also go through Israel, and when they are released in Kerem Shalom. So hundreds of people have basically, in Kerem Shalom, the logistic is UNRWA. There is absolutely no other agencies being there, and we have seen these people coming back from detention, some of them for a couple of weeks, some of them for a couple of months, and most of them coming back completely traumatized by the ordeal they have gone through. And these people have been regularly welcomed. We have provided dignity kit, we have provided food, we have provided clothes, time to realize where they are back, and indeed a number of people have been after that debriefed about their ordeal, and we have indeed an internal report about their experiences, and this report now is also shared with the relevant human rights entities dealing with detention. I keep saying that UNRWA is not an agency looking into detention normally, but there was no one else being there, and it was important, in fact, to receive them in dignity. So, to confirm for your question, the answer is yes. There is such a report, but this report has not been, I'm not aware, has been made public or should have been made public.
Can you give us any more details?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, you want to take a question?
No.
Please, Edie, let's stick to it because the Commissioner General needs to leave early.
I'm sure we all want to know that.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Well, I mean, what detail do you want? To tell you basically what they tell us? It's I think it's a very broad range of ill treatment, and we heard stories of people not only having been systematically humiliated. We heard quite a lot about people have been being obliged to be naked, picture naked, being subject of verbal and psychological abuse. There have been a threat of use of electrocution. We know that there have been a lot of sleep deprivation or use of extreme noise to prevent people to sleep. We heard about the use of dogs to intimidate the people. So there have been quite a number of various ways of putting people under pressure. When I was in Gaza, that was on the 18th. The last time I was in Gaza was the 16th of June. I heard quite a number of humiliating situations where people were forced to be on diaper and because they could not access a toilet for days, if not weeks. And basically, this could have ranged people from the age of 15 to more than 80. So we basically had a full range of people coming back and telling us what the ordeal has been. I will not go more into detail now with the report, but just to give a glimpse, in fact, of the stories which have been shared with us. And we had also UNRWA staff who have been gone through this. So it's not on, I mean, we had all type of people, including among them some UNRWA staff who have been very detailed on what happened when they went from one place to another place. It's not that people have stayed only in one place. There was a kind of a circuit depending on where these people were arrested.
The date of your trip, because it couldn't be in June.
No, January. Sorry. That I'm just a tyrant, but it was in January. Yes, it can't be in June. You're right. Well, it could have been
James.
in June, but not with the same type of situation. Yes.
Commissioner General James Bayes from Al Jazeera. Good to see you again. So you said to us today that it was oral allegations that were given to you.
Yes.
in
You mean the 12?
Yes,
Yes.
of the 12 people.
Yes.
And then the UN responded. You responded by firing them. OIOS started its investigation. I think that was announced at this briefing in January the 26th.
Yes.
It is now over a month since then. And even now, the OIOS team, we're still waiting for them to arrive in Israel because they've been waiting for their permissions. Given that your agency is, as you told the General Assembly today, at breaking point because the response to this was those 16 countries cutting their funding, are you, how frustrated are you by the fact that Israel is taking so long to cooperate with the UN? As I understand it, no one in the UN still has seen the raw evidence, just allegations.
I guess you had a briefing of OIOS, or there was a communique a few days ago, correct?
End
No.
of last week, we
Yeah.
briefed from here.
Okay, yes, you had a briefing here. That's what I saw. I have no more detail about this, but I keep telling donors that the OIOS is like, they will be looking at if yes or not, there is sufficient indication to bring cases into a criminal prosecution, a trajectory. And here we are talking about looking into the misconduct of individual for which, if proven, will have consequences. And I keep saying that if indeed these allegations are correct, it's nothing else than just a betrayal of UN value, but also a betrayal of the Palestinian refugees in general. What's important is really the other process, the review, looking into risk management. And I know that a number of donors are looking at basically how will the agency react and respond to some recommendation coming out of this risk management review of the agency. What are the processes which needs to be improved? In my contact with the donors, I understand that many of them would like to come back. Most of the time, decisions are not a decision based on foreign policy consideration, but it's more based on, I would say, optic or domestic public opinion in the various countries where they are, because supporting UNRWA, can be also divisive depending on the country where you are. So obviously I'm frustrated, but I'm also what I was telling to the GA today is UNRWA is an instrument of the member state. It has an objective. It symbolizes, in fact, and interest the plight of the Palestinian refugees. The right, Resolution 302 is very linked to Resolution 194, which is also the issue of the right of return. And basically, I wanted to draw the attention to the member state that the attempt to eliminate UNRWA are not just based on neutrality breaches of some of the staff, but in reality has a much broader political objective behind it, which in a certain extent is to eliminate the status of refugees and make sure that this is not part of a final political settlement. We keep hearing, in fact, from UNRWA detractor asking how come that the Palestinian refugees are still refugees today from one generation to another one. They most of the time compare with UNHCR, but I also keep reminding that you can be a refugee with UNHCR for the second, third, or fourth, or fifth generation. Look at Western Sahara, look at Afghanistan, look at Somalia, look at all this lasting, protracted conflict. The only difference between UNHCR and UNRWA is that UNRWA is not requested to promote a durable solution because we should hand over our activities the day there is a lasting political solution, and this belongs to the member state, where our UNHCR is promoting durable solution either through resettlement in our countries, integration in the host countries, or the return. Even for UNHCR, the bulk of the durable solution anyway is the return.
Thank you. Let's take a question from Ibtisam and then Mike.
Thank you. My name is, hi, good to see you again. My name is Ibtisam Azim, Al Arabi Al Jadid newspaper. I have a question. I had a question about actually the issue that you raised, the third point you raised regarding what you said to the General Assembly when you said that eliminating UNRWA, that if they will change the mandate or find a new organization, that should be done without compromising the refugee question and the right of self-determination, etc. So my question is, how could that be even possible? Like, if you want to do, if you want to bring a new organization within the UN, how can you do that without, and when you eliminate UNRWA, how can you do that without eliminating all these issues that you mentioned?
You raise a good question, and I mean, for those who are familiar, we had this discussion 2 years ago when I tried to look at alternative, promote partnership in the midst of the financial crisis, and basically was wondering who else within the broader development system or UN system could provide some of the activities. I'll just give you one example. And let's go outside the peak of the emergency crisis. But social protection safety net, it's primarily cash or food. We have within the broader UN family an agency specialized in cash and food, which is a World Food Program. Now, at that time, the proposal was to say, if we are in such a difficult financial situation and other agencies have, better support from a donor because of the nature of their activities, why not, on behalf of UNRWA, under the auspices of the mandate of UNRWA, having a partnership with an organization like WFP to provide cash and food to the Palestinian refugees. When we had this discussion, the perception within the community was to push back. And they pushed back first because they felt that asking someone else to come in was the beginning of the dismantlement of the agency. There was this fear, but it was also at the time there was no real genuine desire to reactivate the political process. Now, if today, after what happened, we are in a situation where genuinely there is, again, a political horizon, we could certainly, with this type of reassurance, imagine that some activities could be undertaken or implemented in partnership. I'm not saying it's easy. there is also a question of perception, which is extremely important, of trust, of reassurances. But that's something I wanted to initiate 2 years ago as a Commissioner General. But today, I'm really warning the donors who are tempted to look at alternative of UNRWA not to do this in a way which would undermine, in fact, the right of the Palestinian refugees, undermine the current mandate being conferred to UNRWA. So I would say it's almost, I keep telling them, it's not just a technical issue. We are dealing with something much more complex than the pure technicalities. And even you might find partners for this kind of activities, but honestly, who can provide education from the first grade to the 10th grade to hundreds of thousands girls and boys across the region if you are not a state or a functioning administration? I don't know. I don't see where the response is. So I keep warning, saying we have to be very careful on what we want. To throw the baby on the water and all this would also mean that we get rid of an essential instrument to succeed in any type of transition. And when we talk about Gaza today, transition would be absolutely key.
Mike, please go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Commissioner General, Mike Wagenheim from I-24 News in Israel. The New York Times report that you discussed earlier, a follow-up question on that. UNRWA has consistently said that it does not have a police force, it does not have intelligence services,
Yes.
it does not have the capacity
I said it
to
many
carry.
times.
Yes, you have said it, UN
Yes.
officials have said it, everybody said it. Does not have the capacity to carry out investigations. Those investigations of Hamas tunnels underneath its headquarters, underneath UNRWA schools, weapons that are found in UNRWA schools. UNRWA just kind of shrugs its shoulders. We'll put it down in a report, but we don't have the capacity to ask questions. We don't have the capacity to investigate. And yet, in the midst of a war, able to carry out an investigation, a report of 100 allegations of alleged Israeli abuses. How is that inconsistency possible, that you have the capacity in the midst of a war to investigate Israeli abuses, 100 or more interviews, according to the Times report, but the allegations that kill the credibility of your organization, you have no capacity to investigate those?
I'm not 100% sure I fully comprehend the question. What I can tell you is the following. If you refer to the underneath tunnel in Gaza Strip, and I had this discussion even before October 7 with a number of Israeli officials, where basically whenever UNRWA undertook inspection of our installation and the suspected cavity has been identified, we constantly informed the de facto Hamas authority, constantly informed the COGAT. Now, when the Israeli, and we protested. Now, when the Israeli told me, listen, there are tunnels everywhere in the Gaza Strip, my answer is to say, you have more information than I do have. You have the expertise. Let me know if you believe that under a given school there is, yes or not, a tunnel, because you have the military expertise to know this. I, as a head of a human development organization providing primary healthcare and education to primary and secondary school, I do not have the expertise to look at what is underneath. And not only I do not have the expertise, but I do not have the mandate. And if it is a peace and security issue, make sure that such a mandate be given to those who can inspect underneath. Now, third point I want to do is there have been now a lot of allegation. Now, if you look at only the UN premises, 150 UN premises of UNRWA have been damaged during this war. Some of the schools have been completely destroyed. Some of the premises that we had to vacate the north have been used for military purposes, either by Hamas combatant, or there was an Israeli army presence. We see it on the social media. We saw it at the headquarters when we were talking about the tunnel. We had more than 400 people who have been killed while seeking protection in UN premises. More than 1,000 people have been injured, and there are now allegations also of 1 or 2 tunnels. I do believe that we need to have a board of inquiry after that, a proper investigation, because it's not okay that the UN, which belongs to the member state, be blatantly disregarded. We need to know what happened. So we need an investigation. If the tunnel have been discovered underneath of UN premises, it needs also to be investigated. And we need to understand why so many people have been killed in UN premises. Today, I have no access to the north. Most of the incident seems to have reportedly coming also from the north. But yes, I agree with you. We need an investigation.
I believe you need to go unless you would like to take.
What time is it?
It's 10 to 7.
I take one more question.
Okay.
Sorry, I have to go to the airport. That's the only reason why. Otherwise, I would love to stay with longer. Huh?
It's not far.
All right, please
Depends
go
on
ahead.
traffic.
Thanks a lot. Merci, Monsieur Lazzarini. Nice to see you again, Carrie from Le Monde. Just a quick question, because you said in front of the GA today that your organization was on the brink and it's in a very bad finance situation. When you think retrospectively, 5 weeks ago, you took this decision of announcing the end of a contract for these 12 people of UNRWA. It led to all the donors' retractations. Do you have any regrets? James talked about frustrations. I'm talking about regrets.
I think it's more frustration than regret. No, I mean, you know, I could not keep this information for me like that. Also, if I was informed sooner or later, this information anyway would have made public. I still believe today the fact that we have taken swift decision, swift action, and that we have now, I mean, this review, we have the OIS investigation, will certainly allow, once we have, you know, we show that we are properly indeed also following up on some of the recommendation. I believe that number of countries will come back. All, certainly not, but the majority will come back. My understanding, based on the discussion I had with many of the donors, they have taken the decision because they had to take the decision, most of the time for domestic reason, but many of the same donor see how indispensable the agency continue to be, and if the agency would be further undermined, what the impact would be in the short, medium term, but also politically. So I have no regret, but clearly, to be honest, I did not expect that within 24 hours, it was a Friday afternoon, I ended up at the end of the weekend with 16 countries having taken the decision taken basically over the weekend for most of them. So that was also quite swift, I have to say. Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Appreciate it. I apologize for everybody else. Thank you.